So what's a green map? It's a locally made map. That's one of the most important things about it. It's not being made by people far away who don't know the place. Local people who know about local conditions, local needs. It's about nature, culture, social justice, and green living. And we share an iconography, as Einar mentioned. There's local icons being added to it here and other places. As you can see, there's print maps, interactive maps, and multimedia maps going on. We use map as a verb, and we use it for community engagement. So the engagement piece is as important as the outcome, the final map. So now we're in 927 places in 65 countries where people have said, we want to take this project on. They can be a government, a university, a grassroots group, a business. We work with everybody, including young people, but we actually try not to go with the people who might want to greenwash. That's the people who we say no to. Everybody else we say, please, yes. So what are we looking for? And we have 170 kinds of icons. This iconography was globally designed starting in 1995. And it's a living language. Our understanding of sustainability keeps changing. Oh, what does that say? Free upgrade, guys. Yay. Sorry. No, okay. So right now we're adding iconography about the sharing economy and many other things. Here, some of the things that have been added are volcanoes and puffin sites. What's something else that you've added to your icons? Polar bears. Right, so it's been localized here. We don't tell people use all the icons. Most people choose just part of them, and it's really about what do we need to rally people around, both positive and negative. About 15% of the icons are about negatives. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, so what do we do in our office in New York is we collect back people's outcomes and experiences and use that to create new tools. And maybe there's something like a style guide that helps people make more empowered maps. Maybe there's something that like this 4Bs guide was made by 4 European cities working together. We just took the English version and translated it into Hebrew, Spanish, and Chinese because we thought it was actually a wonderful tool. So it's been semi-open source since the beginning in 1995. The maps are really beautiful, and there's a few of them out here on the table. We've now put our archive into the New York Public Library's map room. We have a second archive at the University of Victoria, and that one's all about the research that's taken place all over the world. So there's been about 50 theses created about different aspects of what we're doing. As you can see, the maps look very different, so we encourage people to make it meaningful locally. Lots of people are now making both print and interactive maps. We're still in a place where people are using both kinds of maps, both the kind that knows where you are and the kind where you have to find yourself on it. So it's really difficult for a small organization to keep up with technology. So I have a lot of admiration for the team here in Iceland who's made incredibly beautiful on both sides, both print and interactive. Our platform that we made in 2009 is now being used in 40 countries. It has a 9-language interface, and it's completely outdated. Technology is a bear. It's really hard to keep up with. We're in the process of rethinking how we're going to go forward with technology in partnership rather than saying we have to be the lead on it. However, last year, working with our team in Romania, we created a mobile site collecting tool. That's our newest piece. This is part of what's being launched tomorrow, right, here in Iceland. So I'm excited about that. Oh, by the way, we used Google Map Drupal and our iconography and local knowledge. That's how it all works. We felt it was really important. I think there's a little pointer thing here. What does that do? Yes. We thought we put in space for up to 8 icons. We thought it was really important that people be able to suggest sites and add their own images and comments to existing sites. So even though our platform is being used in a lot of places, as it's starting to break, we can no longer fix it because the technology we built it on is several generations old. So if you go down a technology path, be careful. It's tricky. What we have done, though, is we've made it so it's easy to embed these maps into things like Facebook or in other websites so they can be shared very easily as well. We encourage the making of other kinds of cultural expressions using the iconography and the story. Perhaps you've seen this exhibit in the other room that's looking great. I love how the interior of the house was green mapped. This is one of my favorites over here. This is from Utah, where the government doesn't allow sustainability to be taught in schools. So a dance company said, we'll bring it in, and we're going to dance about the green map there. So there's all kinds of ways people have used this process to get around government or cultural restrictions on talking about sustainability issues, positive and negative. I just love this picture up here from Cuba, where they didn't have paper, so they're making murals. People get around all kinds of limitations through this process. By the way, the young people in Colombia saw the Cuban map and made portable murals. They said, we want to bring our mural out to community members. Anyhow, there's a story with everything. These are some of the awards we've won over the years, nationally, internationally, and it's part of our marketing, obviously. Helps us get the word out because our marketing budget has been very low, and it's been very helpful. So I'll show you some of the maps. This is from Cape Town, where in 2010, well, they had the World Cup coming, and they had zillions of tourists coming. So they said, how do we have the greening of the games become part of the tourist experience? So Cape Town Green Map was born by the government. It's still going on. They're just printing their 6th edition right now, and they've done some interesting things. They've shared their branding with Durban and Johannesburg, and these are not government projects, so they don't really mind about that. And they've started a responsible tourism program that's looking at all of Southern Africa. There has not been a practice in the university for teaching young people how to engage the public in planning, in decision-making, in democracy. So they're using the Green Map as a participatory practice tool. And this is at the Federal University of Parana. And this project is continuing now into like its 6th year. This is in China. China has a lot of communications problems. The government doesn't want you to be talking about anything negative. In fact, they asked for a second icon poster with nothing negative on it for inside China. So we have 2 versions, the global one and the local one. And this group that we've worked with for many years, the Mangrove Conservation Network, is focused on just the mangrove forests. And there's tsunami protection, habitat, pollution reduction. So they give back a lot to us, but the whole process has been around engaging people in the discussion. And you can see the maps have a very handmade feel to them. And it's been a project that's had no problem with the government there because the maps are so accessible and the issues are so important. This is Baltimore, Maryland in the US. Maryland is the first state that has eco-literacy standards. So kids are learning about this as part of everyday education. We use the word STEM in the US, science, technology, engineering, and math. They've added A, art. So bring in cultural side as you're working with young people, so especially fifth graders and university students in Baltimore are part of this project. And they did the first successful Kickstarter in the Green Map Network and created a passport to the park that includes a map. So this is part planning, part education, pretty nice entrepreneurial project. Here's Cuba, where we've worked since 1998, despite the restrictions between the two governments, between the US and Cuban government. And we co-produced a book with our Canadian partners, and we did it by triangulating. So the problems between the two governments did not come out. The project is now 15 years old there, and it's reached over 100 different communities across the country. And it's really done remarkable things to get people together to solve problems. So they start by looking for issues and work together on that. If you're interested in that, our YouTube channel has a really wonderful video that they've made called Drop by Drop. And it was, I think, 6 years into it that the government said, we want to know more, and accepted it as part of the education program across the country, and that made a big difference. Here we are in Iceland, where you have some of the most beautiful maps being made, and I mean it. I use your maps all the time as an example of fantastic graphics, very accessible design, and the many formats that you've been able to work with. There's some of the local icons you can see right here. This is an example of a company green map. This was in Taiwan. Oh, there's three here actually, or two rather. There's the two on the left are one company, Delta Electronics, that said for our 35th anniversary, we want to make a green map in each of our workplaces. So 18 different factories and office buildings around the world were mapped. And they used the Cuba process where they found problems. And instead of putting the problems on the map, they solved the problems. And that's what they mapped. So at the top of every map says how much CO2, waste, water, energy, and money was saved by making this map. So it's a very interesting outcome for us. Here's another example from Beijing where they built a gold LEED building and said it's not going to stay sustainable, if LEED really is sustainable, I don't know, unless the people in it get on board. So that was part of the process. If you're interested in corporate social responsibility, there's some other examples up on the web page there. Here's some of the kids' maps. These are from New York, and we've worked with especially the group called Recycle a Bicycle for many years. So young people, and they're 12, 13 years old, they learn how to ride safely in the city, they learn basic bike repair, and in this case, they do a 4-week-long mapping experience. And this map up here, are we trashing the apple? They followed the garbage route in New York. And this was around year 2000. And what they found out was low-income communities of color on the waterfront were being targeted for new waste transfer stations. It would bring 5,000 truck trips a day into those neighborhoods. And this map helped stop that plan. So here's 12-year-olds who stand up and say, we're not going to put up with this in our communities, and help stop that plan. So we are, I don't know if you've been to New York. There's some New Yorkers here right now, right? And we're the kings and queens of garbage, right? We have more than anybody. So our city has not come to grips with our garbage problem. School started this year 2 days ago. What's new this year is fantastic. They struggled to try and do composting in the schools. What was the problem? The plates, the plastic. So my neighbors down the street, they're called Cafeteria Culture. They went to the 5 biggest cities in the US and they said, if you will co-buy this biodegradable plate, we can get the price low enough that we can use it in schools all these schools this year are now buying that plate. And so composting is arriving finally at schools in New York. We have over 1 million kids going to school in New York City every day. You can imagine how much waste and how much dishes that is. Yeah? Because we're stupid. We got rid of our washing systems years ago. And so heating the water, handling those dishes was too expensive for the schools. Plastic was those styrofoam cost almost nothing. So finally we found a biodegradable plate that's as cheap as the plastic was and has the advantage of you can just throw the whole thing away if there's food left on it, and it's all composted together. So we'll see in a while what that does. I think our city spends, I think it's $185 million a year on things that could have been composted but weren't. So we have different composting pilots now all over. I don't know if it's where are you from? Germany. Well, oh, forget it. You guys don't have any garbage, right? No, but the Green Dot Project is how many years old? 20? Yeah, yeah. But see, we never looked at garbage as a problem like you did. So we're so far behind. So I'm happy to at least share that story. We're doing something. And to me, composting is actually extremely important because it's something everybody can do. And it's a huge energy saver. And we now know methane which is coming from the waste that we don't properly handle, is much worse than CO2 as a greenhouse gas. There's a lot of reasons why we need to compost. Anyway, so these young people did an amazing thing, many of them. They chose their own themes and researched themselves what's going on. This neighborhood, just so you know, Newtown Creek, this neighborhood has a 50 million gallon oil spill under it that's just now starting to be dealt with. Is some very crazy things, this scale. So young people are engaged all over the world. And like I heard about the work training program here, when you look at your own community as a young person and you start to realize, I have a sense of responsibility to this place. It's an important place. It's a beautiful place. What can I do? It can be very empowering for a young person. So it's been a good part of our process. This is one of the maps we made in New York City. This was after Hurricane Sandy. So the stormwater receded, but we wanted people to remember how far in the water came. And you can actually see how bad it was here this is my neighborhood. And so we created a series of maps called, instead of Lower East Side, we changed it to Lower East Ride. So we're encouraging bicycling. So we made the print map, which is out there, it's small, just as the bike share program was hitting the street. And so we made this map in Chinese, Spanish, and English, which is what people in our community speak and read. And we wanted people who couldn't afford an app to still be able to use this bike share system. So it's got all the stations on it and other kinds of bike-related resources. We've done a whole series of events around that. And I'm getting more and more involved in addressing climate change through our work at the Green Map office. Okay, so that we started mapping climate change in 2006 has inspired people in other countries to do so as well. So here's in Spain, this is all renewable energy plans through 2020, which is like tomorrow. This is in Thailand, where young people and city agencies work together in several cities to look at climate countermeasures. This one's in Korea. So we're all sharing ideas through this way and getting more people to understand what the issues are. And I'll just leave it there with these couple of URLs for you. Nature.is is your English website locally, and how do you say it even? Natron? Natron. Is it in Icelandic? And then greenmap.org is ours.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy.